Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week I'm very excited to be getting to Harrow the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir, which is the second book in the Locked Tomb series, so the sequel to Gideon the Ninth, which I read at the end of last year, and it was weird. It took me a while to get into it. Well, no, I enjoyed it right from the beginning, but I definitely didn't understand what was going on right from the beginning, but I do think that's intentional, and I'm also expecting with Harrow the Ninth not to really know what's going on in the beginning, and I'm okay with that. Like, I want it to be really weird and mysterious. That's what I want from it. So if you haven't heard of this series, I don't know how you've done that, but basically in Gideon the Ninth, we were following this woman named Gideon who had been raised on the Ninth House, which is like this particular planet where she's always wanted to leave. Unfortunately, all her escape attempts haven't really worked out, but now she has made a deal with the head of the house, Harrow. She's made a deal with her that if Gideon acts as security or like the cavalier of Harrow in this like competition thing, then Gideon will earn her freedom. And so Gideon and Harrow go to this competition. It's very unclear what is even happening in this competition, but it kind of turns into a bit of a murder mystery as well as like a necromancy science club type thing. It's weird, but some very epic things happened at the end of Gideon the Ninth that are definitely going to mean Harrow the Ninth is very different, and I'm looking forward to it. Actually, I already opened the ebook on my Kobo because I just wanted to see like the time estimate. It says about 13 hours it predicts it will take me to read it. And just when I was like clicking through, you kind of have to click through a few pages to like get to the main pages to get a proper estimate. Otherwise it gives you like a double estimate on the cover page. I don't really know what's happening with that. But anyway, I started just reading through it just to get it to an estimate, and just from the list of characters there's a particular element that I was like, I love this book already. Like, all I've done is read the list of characters and I love it. So I'm really hyped for this book. As well, this week I will of course be listening to an audiobook, and the audiobook I am reading is Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. So this is the first book in the Maurer Chronicles. Actually, Theft of Swords is like what's the word? Compendium? Anyway, it's the first two books of the Maurer Chronicles put together, because it was originally 6 books and then they've published them kind of as 3 books. Anyway, I'm halfway through Theft of Swords, which I think means really that I'm onto the second book. Basically, we're following these thieves, Royce and Hadrian, and they're going to go on some kind of new thieving job that probably will mean they get wrapped up in the politics and the magic of the world. I had a lot of fun with the first half. I quite liked the humor of it, as well as kind of like getting to know the world and the magic and the politics. So we'll see how the second half goes. Other than that, this week, it's about to be the weekend and a very sunny weekend, so perhaps we will try and enjoy the sunshine. Next week, I'm definitely going to have to fill out a horrible, stressful form for the council for nonsense life stuff, which is going to be stressful, but other than that, I think we're going to just try and have a good time in the sunshine.
Dancing to your beat, wanted to blend in, no self-expression, 'cause I wanted you to see I'm not so different, fit in your system. So why do you tell me I'm wrong when I say the same things that you say?
Hello, so I have been particularly bad at keeping this vlog up to date, mainly because I got like sucked into the stress of the process of selling my old house. I've talked about this in my vlogs before, and the last kind of like half week has been like a roller coaster. However, I think maybe we're getting to the end, because I just got an email today saying that the council was like happy to say that my house is good. They're going to give it its compliance certificate, and then I get just into like normal house selling stress rather than like council house selling stress. Anyway, that's been awful, but hopefully less awful going forward. Hopefully. Anyway, let me update you on my reading. So, Harrow the Ninth. I am loving this. Why did nobody tell me that this has second person perspective in it? Because I love second person when it's done well. So basically, what is happening in Harrow that I can tell you without spoilers? We're kind of getting two timelines. One of them, though, is kind of in the past at the same time as maybe Gideon was set, but things that are happening don't really align with what happened in the first book. So then it's like, is this even real? Which then just draws into question, like, is any of this real? Who really knows, but I'm loving it anyway. And in a lot of ways, like, not much is happening, but it actually doesn't matter because it's more about like the emotional journey that Harrow is going through. So the other timeline is the one that's mostly being written in second person, which kind of seems to be like the present timeline. And Harrow is basically just dealing with the fallout of the first book, or more accurately, she's not dealing well with what happened. And so we're getting that experience. But as I said, it's written in second person, which I really love. I'm really interested to see, like, I have my theories about what's going on, but I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out and like what is really happening. Like, what is really happening with any of this? I honestly have no idea. It's so confusing, but I love it. So yeah, I'm actually quite far through now. Maybe 30% of the way through. Actually, I'm really reading it on my Kobo. So my Kobo says 27% of the way through. So I will be continuing that for sure. As well, though, I've been reading my audiobooks, and I actually finished Theft of Swords. I got a copy from the library, though, so I can hold it up while I'm talking, so I don't have to do any editing work in terms of putting the picture on screen. So I think actually when I talked to you, I was like halfway through at the beginning of the second book in this bigger book. So that's quite a lot of progress. And like, I had a lot of fun with it. I kind of feel like each of the smaller books feels like you're only getting like a little bit of progress with the bigger plot and the bigger like magical questions about what's going on in the world. And I did read a thing by Michael J. Sullivan basically saying that he wrote all 6 books in one go, and because of that he was able to like slowly build the world and set things up in earlier books that would be meaningful in later books, like do that particularly well. So I'm actually really enjoying this like slow unveiling of the world. And then each kind of adventure within the book so far is more like just kind of a fun adventure. Royce and Hadrian always kind of seem to start out with some thieving job that seems like maybe it'll be somewhat straightforward, and then it all goes south, and they always end up kind of wrapped up in these political conspiracies and this bigger magical thing that's going on. And the writing is a lot of fun, and some of the characters, I really love them. They're kind of ridiculous, but I love them. And I'm getting to like Royce and Hadrian quite well. Like, I think at first I thought they were a little bit ridiculous and maybe a little bit stereotypical, but I'm becoming quite fond of them. So I'm looking forward to continuing that series. And then, since I finished that, I was really like, I don't know which audiobook to start next. I had a few options, but then my library happened to right at that moment say, would you like a skip the line version of the audiobook for an Academy for Liars? I keep saying Anne, and I actually put Anne into Goodreads and Storygraph, and if you do that, you end up on an edition that's not really a real edition. So don't do that. Don't be me. It's an Academy for Liars. So I've been listening to the audiobook of that, and I'm about 20% of the way in. And this actually has a terrible average rating. It's like 3.51. But so far, it seems okay. It's kind of meant to be like this dark academia story with like a secret magic school. So far, all that's really happened is we've met this girl named Lennon, and she hasn't been very happy and has been kind of going through with this engagement in the hopes that that would make her happy, which it's not, which I quite enjoy because I'm kind of anti-marriage, and so seeing people not find happiness in marriage is somewhat satisfying. Anyway, she then goes through kind of like an emotionally distraught period, trigger warnings for like attempted suicide, but then she ends up getting this call and they're like, actually what they keep saying is, do you still have your name? Which is weird. And then she ends up going to this like examination for this magic school and getting admitted to this magic school, and it's all really weird. Like, the examination is all them just being shown all these pictures of different people and being asked what their emotional states are. What I found interesting about that is
There is actually a thing you can do online where it shows you people's eyes, I think, and asks you to select the one that shows a certain emotion. And I've always enjoyed it because I always get 100%. I will link that test down below because I feel like it's a little bit similar to this magic school acceptance test. So maybe if you do well in that test, you could have a chance. And then there's definitely some things about the magic school that seem really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. It seems like kind of a darker kind of thing is going on. The magical seems to be based around the idea of persuasion, and that maybe you can be so good at persuading things that you can actually change reality. I don't know, it's all quite unknown at the moment, but I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, and I'm hoping that the 3.51 rating is maybe just people going in with unrealistic expectations. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Honestly, what is my hair doing? Hello. So once again, it is a couple of days since I last updated you, and I honestly don't even really know what I was doing. I mean, there's like a touristy thing on this weekend, so I was busy today with that, but what was I busy with the days before that? No idea. I definitely know I was getting a bit frustrated because even though I am loving Harrow, I was feeling like it was going too slow, but not because the book was going too slow, but only because I was only being able to pick it up in like little pieces, like reading it a chapter at a time. And while it might be enjoyable to read it a chapter at a time, I don't know, actually I'm just way too impatient to like actually find out what's going on with this. Am I going to find out what's going on with this by the end of the book? I honestly don't even know, but I should learn something, right? There were definitely some bits where I was like, come on, I'm kind of impatient for something to happen. But every time I started feeling like that with this book, something would happen. And today, actually, once we got home, we had a bit of a rest and I did manage to make a bit more like focused progress on this, and I'm really enjoying it. I will say some of this is so gross. Because the magic of this series is all based around necromancy, there's some like really detailed descriptions of like body parts and blood and like bones growing and breaking and being used in all sorts of awful ways. Like, it's quite graphic descriptions and quite gross in some parts, but I kind of love it. And just the way that it describes so many of these things is so great. Like, again, I can see that it wouldn't be for some people, but also I know this is very highly rated, so obviously a lot of people are enjoying it. But I would say, like, if you are someone, I know there are some people out there who have struggled their way through Gideon because it's too weird. Like, just know that Harrow is even weirder. So if you could only just make it through Gideon, maybe you won't make it through Harrow because what is even happening? But I love it. So I'm actually about halfway through now. So we'll see how much longer it takes me to finish it off. As well, audiobooks. So I was continuing An Academy for Liars. I did actually get to 99% of the way through. I will say I feel like it's not necessarily that it got bad, but it just didn't dig into some of the things I wanted it to enough. So right now I'm like at 99% of the way through. I got home from my run and I only had like 8 minutes to listen to, and I haven't listened to them, and that was my run yesterday. So I think that's a sign that I don't really care about the ending of the book. I will finish it on my next run or whenever I'm doing something that I want an audiobook for, but I'm just not really motivated to finish it. I feel like at the end there were quite a lot of like big twists, and a lot of them hinged on betrayals, but because I'd never really gotten to know the characters very well, or I didn't feel like the characters were very well developed, and definitely their relationships weren't developed, so then those betrayals kind of fall pretty flat. And some of like the emotional moments where people are supposed to be supporting each other also didn't really feel very genuine. As well, I don't think it ever really went in enough with the magic. Like, as I said in the beginning, some of this magic was being described in like a really weird way. And actually, I was endlessly frustrated. So the magic is all around persuasion, with the idea that some people can have such powerful persuasion that they can like change reality. And every time things would be going wrong for our main character and she would be like, oh no, I wish this wasn't happening, I'd be like, wouldn't you at least try to persuade it not to happen? Like, wouldn't you at least try if you know that power's in the world? Wouldn't you? I would. I mean, I probably have tried it at certain times, and I don't even know if that power exists, but why wouldn't you try it? So a lot of this book actually focused on like the romance with this professor, like her advisor, and I mean, I'm not a fan of those kind of relationships. There were some good points made about it where he was like, no, this is a bad idea, and he was right, but it just never really felt like a very good romance anyway. So it didn't do enough of the romance. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted that anyway, but I feel like anyone who went into that book excited about the romance would be disappointed. It didn't do anything with the magic, so I feel like this was marketed as dark academia. I feel like people who like fantasy dark academia will be disappointed that the magic wasn't weird enough, and then people who like dark academia will be disappointed that the relationships and the whole schooling aspect weren't really getting like toxic enough. There was no real obsessiveness. There was a little bit of competitiveness, not really any pretentiousness. Like a lot of that stuff that I think people read dark academia for wasn't really there. I guess we'll see. Maybe it'll all turn around in the last 8 minutes. Probably not. If I was going to recommend books, obviously Vita Nostra is the weird dark academia that I always recommend. But I also was thinking this was a little bit like some of Kat Howard's works, so Roses and Rot, or even An Unkindness of Magicians. And maybe also a little bit like The Atlas Six, which maybe people have similar complaints about these two books. Anyway, I've actually already in my spreadsheet where I track things, I've already given this a 3-star rating. It was fine, but it could have been really great. So that's really disappointing. But as I said, I guess maybe that last 8 minutes will change things around.
Baby, I know what you're going through. I'll be waiting up for you all night.
Okay, so I need to tell you guys how much I am loving this book. Like, it is such an experience. There are so many things kind of coming together now. So I've actually managed to make it, I think it's like 75%-ish or something. My ebook's in the other room. And I actually got the physical book from the library, so I've been using that just to track where I'm up to. So I've got less than 100 pages to go, and things are really starting to come together. Like, we now understand certain things, like why it didn't make sense, what was actually happening. And the process of getting to that, like there is a chapter, I just loved all these chapters, but there is a chapter where the title of the chapter is just like a bunch of question marks. And then the next chapter was like month, question mark, question mark, question mark. And the one before that was before, question mark. Like, it's like the book knows that you're confused. In fact, the chapter I just finished ends with a character saying, "What the fuck is going on?" And it's just so nice to like be reading a book that's confusing, but the book itself and the characters inside it as well are all just as confused. But it is all coming together and in such a clever way. I will say, like, in some ways, it's a certain trope that normally I wouldn't like. It isn't exactly that, but it's kind of that. I can't say what that trope is because it would be spoilers, even though it's not exactly that. But normally I wouldn't like this thing, but the way that it's done is so clever and there's still like so much more going on as well as just that. I don't think that will even make sense to people who've read the book. Like, this book doesn't make sense, and I feel like so many people would read this in different ways. But also it's coming together in a way which means I really do think it's all going to make sense, which is so satisfying. Like, you know, sometimes there's books where you read them and they don't make sense, and then they end and they still don't make sense, and it's so unsatisfying because you think that it's all going to come together. But this did it. It really came together so nicely. I mean, I'm not finished, and there's still some things I don't understand. And I don't really know. I used to have some theories, I think, about what Known in the Ninth was about. But now I think all those theories have they don't make sense anymore necessarily because this is so crazy. Maybe they kind of... my theories are evolving over time as we go through this book. But I love this. And like the emotions of it, actually, I cried. I cried at... Just certain characters said certain things which showed how broken they are, and I felt it so much. This is a wonderful book. I cannot imagine that the last 100 pages will change my opinion. In fact, I imagine they will make me love it even more. So I'm so excited to finish this. So maybe I'm a little bit conflicted about my plans. We basically spent the whole weekend at this vintage weekend thing that our little town was doing. And it's been really exhausting. Like, normally we don't really do many activities. So doing multiple activities each day for 3 days, tiring. Which is why I just spent the afternoon on the sofa getting through a bunch of this. And I'm kind of like, maybe I spend the rest of the night just reading and finishing this off. That's what I want to do. But also I'm behind on a bunch of other things because I've been doing house stuff and this whole weekend. And so, I don't know. I expect that when this vlog goes up, there will have been a few little gaps in my normal video schedule. But that's life sometimes. To be honest, I think I'm just going to go to bed and finish this off. What time is it? It is 8 o'clock, even though it's still very sunny outside. It's not unreasonable to go to bed and read from 8 o'clock, right? Also, actually, I should say, An Academy for Liars, still haven't read that last 8 minutes. Haven't felt any urge to at all, but I am going to go for a run tomorrow morning. So I will definitely finish it off then. And then probably also start something else, but we'll see. We'll see what one I decided to start because I've got a few options floating around. Hello, I cannot find a quiet place to film for the life of me. Even now someone's driving past. I thought it would be nice and quiet here by the library where I often stop to film, but there must be some kind of event on soon, so there's people everywhere. So I've hidden myself in the bush. We'll see. I'm also like super red and sweaty because I just went for my run. So let me update you on my reading. Oh no, actually first, let me update you on my house that I'm trying to sell, my old house. Yesterday, the council finally provided me with the documentation that I've been fighting them for like 2 months to get them to give me. And like, in the end, it's so anticlimactic. It's like the stupidest little bit of paper. But I've sent it to my lawyer, and hopefully that means that I'm a step closer to selling my house. There's still many, many more steps to overcome. But at least I got through with fighting with the council. So then, reading. I was optimistic last night. I did not finish Harrow the Ninth. I only have like a few chapters, 4 chapters I think, to go, but I was just too tired. It was too late. I knew that today I had to get up and send emails to lawyers, and I wanted to go for a run. So I haven't finished it, but I will definitely finish that when I get home. And then while I have been running, I've been listening to a few things. I finished off An Academy for Liars, and I just feel like with that book, there was so much potential that it just didn't deliver on. That's the frustrating thing. Like, it's kind of fine what it did do, but there's so many like ideas that it introduced and then just went nowhere with it. And the ending was quite unsatisfying, I thought. I wish it had been more. It had so much potential to be more. And I think in the end, it's probably kind of been badly marketed because it's almost promised more than it actually did have. Anyway, that's quite disappointing, but like, it was fine. I don't think it deserves as low a rating as it's got, but it had so much more potential than it delivered on. Then after that, I started listening to The Birds by Daphne du Maurier. So I have seen the movie and I've read a couple of things by Daphne du Maurier, so I wanted to read this, even though like I have a fear of birds. I think birds are beautiful, lovely creatures, but they can also be like really vicious and horrible, and I think my fear of them is justified. And I think if you read this book, like, it really does justify my fear in them, like with their beaks and their claws, and like if a swarm of birds decides to kill you, you're probably dead. I guess I should say this one though, I really liked the vibes of it, the feel of it. Like, it's so scary, even though in a lot of ways the main characters aren't really dealing with the scariest parts, or like don't have the consequences that some of the other side characters do. But it also kind of just like escalates to a point and then like just ends, and you kind of left wondering, well, what? Is that the end of humanity? Maybe. I kind of remember that's what the movie did as well. Anyway, the audiobook that I have with that is The Birds and Other Short Stories, because The Birds was actually very short. Oh, it's ding dong time. I'm just going to talk over it because it's 10 o'clock in the morning and there's going to be like 10 dongs and I can't wait. Anyway, I think what I'm going to do, because I have, oh, it's quite loud though, isn't it? Maybe not for you. So, I have this audiobook with all these other short stories by Daphne du Maurier in it. The Birds was really short, and then like I've finished it in much less than my actual running time, and I enjoyed it, but very short. I think I'm going to break up the short stories from that short story anthology with, I also have Januaries by Olivie Blake, which is like a short story anthology, so I'll try and read like those and maybe alternate between those two short stories. I also have another couple of audiobooks, and I haven't quite decided which one I want to start first, because maybe I'll start one of those as well amongst all these short stories. I don't know, I'm probably going to end up reading so many books at once. But I'm either going to start, what's it called? I don't actually know. The Something of Coley, the next book in the Rampart trilogy, which I started last month and I really loved. So I'm excited to get to that. Or otherwise, I've also got the audiobook for The Peripheral. Jason and I had over kind of the summer break a trial of Amazon Prime. I don't really pay for any streaming services, but we had a trial and we watched The Peripheral, but it was cancelled after season 1. However, it's based on a book and I have the book on audiobook. So I was thinking of reading that so that I can actually understand the story, because the TV show was really great, but there was so many like conversations and like plot points that were like, okay, I get the gist, but I don't really understand. So I would like to read the book and see what understanding I could get from that. But I haven't decided. Do I go with the book that I know I'm going to love, or the one that I've just got curiosity about because of a TV show? I still haven't decided. Oh, maybe this lighting would have been better. Good work, Penny. Good work. Hello. So I am home and I have finished Harrow the Ninth. I really loved it, although I will admit the last few chapters, there are a few silly things. Like, actually throughout all of this, there are some moments of like really goofy kind of humor and like memes, and usually in most of the times when it's done, I'm like so impressed that she's able to like fit something so ridiculous into the story and make it work. But a few of the times at the end was just a little bit too ridiculous. Like, there's one inclusion of like Eminem lyrics, and I don't know, in some ways it's great world building, but also like, what are you doing? There was also like this ridiculous dad joke that I either love or I hate. I honestly can't tell you. Like, there were just some bits at the end that were like just too goofy for me a little bit. And then as well, there's kind of like this big conversation between certain characters, and our main characters are kind of like observing this conversation, and a lot of it doesn't necessarily make sense. In some ways, it's everything coming together and you're finally understanding things. But in other ways, it's like, what is even happening? So yeah, conflicted feelings about the end, but I still think this is a 5-star book. I'm probably going to give it 4.5 stars, but like on Goodreads or whatever, I'll round it up to 5 stars. I had a really great time with this, and I'm so excited to get to Nona. And I'm also really excited to reread this at some point, like understanding what is going on and like picking up on everything, I think will be a really great time. So as well, I did listen to some more audiobook things on my way home. I was listening to Januaries. I've actually forgotten. So the idea of Januaries is that it's broken up into seasons, and then within each season there's different short stories. But the audiobook I have, it's Borrow Box, and none of the chapters have names. So I think we were starting with winter. Does that make sense? Anyway, the first story was basically this girl who's like a spirit attached to this magical bridge that people can come to and make wishes, and just kind of like the story of her granting these wishes and maybe a particular guy who keeps coming to the bridge and the connection she forms with him. And I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. I often don't like short stories, but I really like Olivie Blake's writing style, and so maybe short stories are the way to go with her in terms of my preference. So I really liked it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of that anthology. And then I think that's all. Oh no, I did also try The Peripheral, and I didn't really like it. I think mostly though, I actually didn't like the audiobook. Okay, I got distracted, but I think I've told you about everything that I read this week. So, was it a week? Who knows? I've lost all track of time at this point. But anyway, let me know if you've read Harrow or any of the other things I was talking about. I would love to chat with you about them down in the comments. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.